And that brings us, boys and girls, to Andor episode 5, as we got to break that down now. We're going to keep this train moving right along. Andor season 2, episode 5. Midpoint of the 3-episode block.
Yep.
Business definitely picks up, as it tends to in a show that kind of defines itself in 3-episode blocks, or mini blocks of 2, like last season. We get in this one, the big shift here is Cassian's now an active player in the game on Gorman. Mm-hmm. He reluctantly takes Luthen's job to kind of go out there and assess a contact who we know as the rich head of the house that kind of wants to bankroll the resistance effort out there. And that all goes a certain way. We can talk about that with some, in some detail. We get a little bit more with Bix and her kind of slow decline into like apathy and drug use. She's kind of dumping on the apartment a little bit. She's kind of sitting around watching reality TV, which I'll point out and say, I really hate that almost as much as I hate Cyril and Bix. And then I figured it out, dude. Star Wars isn't supposed to feel like any kind of direct modern day analog to like Western world living. That's the thing. I don't care if that might be some shit they might watch on TV. I don't want to know. It's the same reason I didn't like the techno music on Chandrilla. I get that a culture could have that, but it's automatically immersion breaking for me. It's a sticking point for me. But didn't get in the way. It's 5 seconds, like, in a cutback, to set things up of what she's doing. So she's still there. Other stuff going on.
You can't alienate our Keeping Up with the Kardashian fans that watch our channel, or right? Real Housewives from everywhere.
I know. We have Real Housewives of Brackenfield 6, or Keeping Up with the Glorkdashians. Yeah, that would be something that Star Wars would do, surely.
Keeping Up with the Palpatines.
Yeah, dude. Oh my, dude, I can see that in my head. Actually, we should probably spoof that. That might actually work. We might have to script that. All right, somebody clip that and send it to us so we can go ahead and get straight to work on that. What really goes on here is the Andor stuff. I think is main. That's all I got on the notes. Really, is him assessing their eagerness, their ability, like basically poking holes in their security protocols every which way from the minute he gets there. Because we get that great setup scene where like he accepts his orders, they give him his identity of who he is, his background. He's committing all this shit to memory and inserting himself as the young up-and-comer designer on Gorman. And from the minute he gets there, they all think they're like super slick Cold War secret agents, and he's like, nah, dog. No. So I think that's kind of the gist of all the really the good on the rebel side of things. On the flip side, we get more with Dedra and Cyril, and we see that relationship is still about as interesting as a grilled cheese. Like
I liked it. I think it was perfect for who he is. It's the perfect relationship for him. Don't count off two oddballs because they both don't fit in wherever they are. Because she's smarter than everybody else who works at the ISB besides her boss, and he is just overeager mama's boy who needs someone to be in charge of him.
The whole thing, dude. If they ever do a Star Trek Next Generation revival, they could cast this woman to be Data, like without a doubt, because she has no emotions, none.
What was Whoopi's character?
Guinan.
Yep, she would be the new Guinan.
No way, dude. Guinan smiled and laughed and could tell a joke. She's no shot. This chick plays Guinan. Data. She's a robot. Maybe a Klingon at best. I don't know. Maybe a Vulcan. Not a Vulcan, a Romulan. She'd make a good Romulan.
Romulan, there we go. Yeah, Romulan.
Sneaky, conspiratorial, cunning.
Yeah.
She could be a Romulan. Data could be a Romulan. But like,
Uncle Harlow to go with her.
Dude, I know, right?
Harlow. That's it. Harlow.
There's the spoiler alert, guys. King Z called it. Uncle Harlow's actually Palpatine in disguise. Oh, dude, that's crazy. Dude, what if that was it? Was all along Agatha all along, but it was Palpatine all along. It's Cyril and Dedra. Cyril has now left. What the hell? I don't know what's the name of the planet already. I forgot. Gorman. He left Gorman after the inspection. Right, that all goes south for him. They're looking for the listening devices. Right.
Yep. When he has an audit going on,
comes in the middle of an audit and blows it up. But as we know, probably all for appearances. Except there actually was a listening device there, right? Because the rebels at the same time are like eagerly trying to shut shit off to avoid detection. Like on a reverse trace or whatever.
Let's call them the underground. Let's not call them.
Let's not call them
great
rebels. we should call them underground because we know who the rebels are, and these are
Yep.
the underground because they're straight out of France, World War II. They are the underground.
They're
And
the
and Star Wars
underground.
already ruined the Resistance anyway with the sequel trilogy. So we call them the underground. So he's kind of still, he's working their angles. He's trying to get himself inserted there. He's reporting back to Daedra and Partagast. Dude, he's eating it up. He's like, yes, sir. Well, we could do this, and then we're going to do that, and then this is the first move. And then we realize what they were really referring to in episode 4 when Daedra was talking about you need reliable insurgents on Gorman. She wasn't talking about installing operatives to do stuff like that. She meant like, we're basically just going to let these idiots hang themselves.
Yep.
Like just giving them a gentle nudge in the right direction. I'm like, okay, nicely done, guys.
And that's why he was talking so freely. And then he get invited in. He would see like one of them, and then he can pull the strings from the inside for the ISB. He's what you would call a mole. Does he mold his way in there?
Right. Now, over under on how many more episodes before Cyril goes native and actually joins these idiots, because that's coming.
No, he's going to blow his cover before he gets a chance to join them. He's going to make a mistake because now, because
all right, go ahead.
So let's just paint the whole scene. He goes back there to see his mother. He goes back to their apartment, and they're cereal. He goes back. He was not eating cereal.
He had cereal at one point. I heard it pour in the bowl. He did.
But he went back to the apartment. He talked to Daedra, and they were like, he's like, how long do I have? He's like, you have an hour, because they're trying to keep up appearances just in case they have someone following him. And he said something. She's like, turn off the lights.
Yeah. But you skipped over a bunch of interesting shit, though. She asked him, are you careful? And he goes, I took precautions. I'm good. Nobody followed me. And then she's like, actually, I had you followed. Partagast wanted you followed. So super slick sleuth over here isn't half the game master he thinks he is. And then she's like, turn off the lights. Yeah. And again, it's about as interesting as a cold grilled cheese sandwich. There's no chemistry there at all. It just doesn't work.
I think it's marvelous. I think it's marvelous.
Oh God, no. They ain't no Han and Leia. I'll throw that right out there. Yeah. They ain't no Han and Leia.
Yeah, just he's like, should I really have to go see her? That was fun.
Do you really think they're monitoring Edie's apartment? I'm like, you refer to your mother by her first name.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting.
And then, but later they're at the ISB and he's talking to him and he was like, good job. And he's like,
oh, dude.
He's like, if I said that this is the greatest day of my life, would it undo everything we just did? And she's like, and like, you just see like the irritation on her face. And she was like, I'm just happy to see you happy.
Oh God. Dude, what she really meant was, get me one of those metal pens you guys all have and fucking jam it into my carotid. Because again, dude, I don't know what it is. Dude, see, let me put it like this, right? Brasso and the woman on Rebel Moon World, infinitely more chemistry than these two had. Even Cassian and Bix, who I don't think have like, despite them actually having physical scenes together, don't really hit a certain level of chemistry on that. I buy them as comrades in arms more than I do boyfriend, girlfriend, ex-lovers, reunited or anything like that. But these two vanilla snowballs, like I just can't. It's too much, dude.
But back to my point is because he's so eating this up, he's going to try too hard to keep that praise coming. So he's going to mess up and blow his cover, which is going to undo what they're trying to do and have to go full on assault force to get what they want. And I think that's going to key the beginning of them disbanding the Senate, which we find out in A New Hope when they came in, is like the Senate's officially been disbanded. The last relic of that old It's like the regional governors.
First Empire meeting. Yeah, regional governors. Tarkin. Yeah, that's good shit. Yep. Yeah, so we know that's on its way. That'll be interesting to see how Cyril ends up then. I kind of have it. I see it going the other ways. He at some point or another, because this dude's always thought the Empire was on the side of doing the right thing, and he is ordered in his mind, and he is a law and justice kind of guy. He watched how episode 6 ended, and I don't know, but that wasn't their fault though. Never mind. I'd have to somewhere along the line. I think he's going to see them do something uncouth, There we go. It's 75-cent word for you. Uncouth. And I think he made reverse course because dude, one of these characters somewhere, it's a spy show. Somebody has to flip. Someone. Luthen's attendant in the store, Bix when she's high. I don't know. It won't be Andor, obviously, because we know where he ends up for Rogue One. But like there's tons of people to pick from. Lonnie.
I believe that the person in his store is taking over everything, and that should be Mon Mothma's main right hand when she takes over as the leader of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, could be.
Because we all know Luthen isn't around. You never hear his name anywhere else. Right. So
but they're not above retcons, though. It's I get what you're saying, but they're not above changing some shit to just be like, yeah, no, that's just because you guys didn't know. It's like the Ahsoka problem. Well, she's alive in the sequel trilogy. Well, where the fuck was she when we needed her? You know what I mean? Like for like literally everything. So they'll just say, all right, he was.
You mean during the main
during the whole thing? Because if she's alive during like Clone War era, she's obviously alive during OT. And we know that her show is set after where's her show set?
Her show's set right after the fall of the Empire.
Right, so between 6 and 7, so she is still alive for sequel trilogy. Where were you on that one?
We don't know because remember it was 30 years in between these 6 and 7. She could have died in that 30 years.
True. I suppose that's true. I'm still going to hold her accountable on the original trilogy then. But it's that problem is we don't know whether or not like they could write him in if they wanted to. They could retcon him in. The last thing he could say would be to give the orders that start Rogue One, or however they would want to write that in. So they're not out of the woods for accountability on that yet. But what else did we get missed on episode 5? I feel like there was a lot of the stuff with Andor back and forth with the Gorman front, but what else is there?
So Luthen Rail shows up and talks to Bix, and that's when he talks to her about the drugs that she's on. She's like, I just take it to sleep. And he's like, be careful with this. I need you fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I was going to have you do a weapon analysis.
Weapon evaluation. Yep. Something like that. Yep. Weapon assessment.
He's like, but I changed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talks about like fond memories of that apartment. And she's like bashing the apartment.
Dude, let's talk about Luthen Rail in that scene, right? My man goes over there like he's the caring, compassionate grandfather type and not like the ruthless, cold-blooded boss of like resistance cell type. He went there to see how jammed up this chick was. Period. End of discussion. That was not a wellness check by any means on him to her. And we know that later when he confronts Andor about the visit. They got a great exchange. I don't remember if it was in this episode or in 6.
6.
It was like it was in 6. He goes, yeah, I was hoping she didn't tell you about the visit. It would have been more interesting that way. Now you both disappointed me. I'm like, okay, that's pretty savage. You need these people to work for you, dude. Maybe you don't punk them every opportunity. Just saying.
No, he's just trying to keep them on their game because he made a huge mistake by coming to the store.
Oh, dude, massive at that point. And he called him on it too.
But that's the next episode.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Let me just give you. Let me do a cut here real quick. I want to review the note page. I feel like we're missing something big on that episode. Unless you got something that you want to touch on.
There really wasn't
a lot of stuff on Gorman.
Much in this one. Like the main part was Andor meeting everyone and talking to them.
I think the only other thing we missed, and I bring it up here because it has a big payoff at the end of the next episode, is the bit where Clea, that's Luthen Rail's like shop attendant, rebel assistant lady, she hears in a microphone in a bug that they planted in Gangster Skullman's gallery and like a piece they sold him. That's the guy that basically married his son to Mon Mothma's daughter, just as a refresher, right? They're having a problem with another piece. They detected a forgery. So this dude flies off the handle and wants the whole collection double checked, rechecked, triple checked,
re-audited,
reassessed, the whole 9. And now they're shitting bricks because they're like, well, wait a minute, there's like a giant ass Imperial party tomorrow or whatever with this gallery present. Like, what are we supposed to do? So they basically have a major argument where we can see Luthen cracking here. It's like an extension of that earlier scene where he's like, there's just too much damn information floating around. And he basically says the same thing the Partagas guys were complaining about. So we see like these logistical issues for both sides. But now they have to plot how they can get into this guy's private art gallery with all kinds of gangster security and high level hobnobbing, shoulder rubbing 1%ers around. How can we do this? And there's a big payoff in episode 6 that we'll get to. But I like that because again, this is spy stuff. Like they have to do some Mission Impossible, Ocean's 11. And it felt like Ocean's 11 really at one point when she's like trying to undo what she does. But I usually think that these are the scenes that I'd cut because they go nowhere. But it was a great setup for a really fun payoff that comes later.
Yeah, I think it worked out pretty well. You needed something for them to do instead of just kind of they would have just been floating during this arc if they didn't have some type of tension, because you had Andor with his mission, you had Bix and what's going on with her.
Yeah, for personal. Yeah.
You have Willits, who's the third of that Bix Andor team, who's kind of doing his own thing now, doing what his dad taught him how to do. And I love how he doesn't refer to who taught him how to do what he does. So I think that is like, it says something because his dad was tortured to death and then hung.
Yep.
So
slapping.
This they needed something other than them just arguing in the shop like they did in the last one. They still had their arguments, but it led to them doing something. And I think that's what they needed for them. Just like Mon Mothma even has her trying to get the vote through, and she gets shut down.
Yep. No, and again, those are those scenes where I think that people that want more of the pew pew on the show don't recognize. Like, not everybody on this show is a commando. And, Mon Mothma was never picking up a gun and going ham. You're never getting the Punisher scene with Mon Mothma. Like, why would you need that? And Luthien Rail's 147 years old. We know he can handle himself because when him and Andor get pinned down when they first meet in season 1, we know he can arrive and do things and handle himself. He's a space fighter pilot. So he had to weaponize his ship to get out of a jam in season 1. So we know that's what I'm saying. It's like, we know he can pop off when he needs to, but he's 155. I don't need to see that. What I need to have him see is exactly the kind of stuff we're going through. He's pushing and testing his people. He's having arguments with Clea, who is his right hand. Andor's not his right hand guy. Might be his top operative, but Clea is his right hand. His logistics chick, his comms person, his sounding board. If she screws him over, rebellion done. Toast. Get it. So I think you're right. If they just had arguments for the sake of having arguments that don't push the story anywhere, then it really is just noise, and that's the scene you cut.
And it also plays into how you said how he's old. Is like he's losing stuff in his mind. There's too much information. They have this same problem that the ISB's having, processing everything. It's getting almost too big for like one or two people to handle. Like they need to build their council of the rebels, which I mean, they have Mon Mothma. She's the inside of the Senate. He has people everywhere. It's just that he needs someone who more people he can just trust, fire and forget people, as we say it in the military, that you give them a mission and then they're going to go and they're going to complete
autonomous.
it.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that's a useful use of time for both of those arcs, whether it's Partagast and Deirdre having their scenes where they're setting up, a tier of plans above what Cyril knows about. And that's see, I love that. That's lurking in the background. I love that. I can't wait to see where that goes. That's probably the thing I want most.
That's the key to security, is compartmentalizing information. Just because you have a need to know doesn't mean you have the right to know. There's this thing with clearance. When I had say you have a secret clearance, just because you have a secret clearance doesn't mean you get to read all the secret information out there. If you don't have a need to know that, then you don't get access to it. They have compartments like that. Above secret, when you get to like top secret, they have like different compartments and stuff like that, and everything's all compartmentalized, and you have to have access to it. And then if there's a program, say there's a top secret program, you have to be read in on that program for you to learn about it. If not, you don't get any information on that. You can't work on it until you're read in, which is granting you permission into that compartment.
Right. And as far as Cyril goes, he's somewhere down here. You know what I mean? Partagast is somewhere here. Data is somewhere in the middle. And then there's above Partagast. He's not like VP of operations here.
Yeah. Think of, you have your specialist. Your specialist just knows what he's doing. Your sergeant needs to know what he's doing and the other 4 other people under him. Then your commander needs to know what everybody's doing. And then above them, say in this case, the emperor, he needs to know the big chessboard, but he doesn't need to know what that specialist is doing.
Right.
That's what the captain's for.
Yep. Yeah. There's a chain. There's a reason there's a chain, and security works no differently. Like you said, that's how that all goes. But I do love, like I said, that the shadowy stuff is where I think this show gets to be its most interesting, and I think it gets to its weakest almost when they, and again, I think the weakest stuff really just does come down to, we can, if you want to pull up the ratings, we can slide right into ratings. And
I got one more point I want.
Oh yeah, dude, hit it.
One, I made a mistake in the when you watch our first episode review, or episode 4 at review.
Episode 4.
So the gas siphoning is in 4 and 5. There is not in 6. I was completely wrong about that. But the part that happens is where he's siphoning because they told the guy that they were training one thing and found out that he was actually a snitch to the Empire. So they had an ambush waiting for him. So they went somewhere else. He's like, good thing we're going to be parsecs away.
That was good shit.
Yeah.
That Forrest Whitaker voice is pretty good for that character.
So he's like addicted to that gas too. Like he loves the smell of it, even though it's completely toxic. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It's all up in him.
He made it a her. He named the gas a her.
He did. But
then
he even asked the kid, do you love her like I do? Or there was a line similar to that. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
We knew this dude was out there when we met him in Rogue One. And then we knew he was ill as hell in season 1 of Andor. Yeah. Sacrificing chips every which way. You know,
but yeah, then you get him where he kind of recruits Will away from Luthen into his group, and I think that's where the line comes in from the trailer that we both loved. Do you want to fight or do you want to win? And that's where Andor is trying to bring him back away from that group, because even that group is like far away from what Luthen's trying to do. Yeah, they're like, they want to kill. They're the anarchist.
Yeah. For sure. They're gonna burn the system.
Yeah.
The whole system.
So I think that's where that line comes in. Do you want to fight with these guys, or do you want to win this with us over here?
Yeah, that could definitely work, because I think I gotta sit on the note for the next episode. Oh no, actually I think it was this episode. Oh no, I'm sorry. It is the real conversation between Luthen and Cassian is on the pickup flight home. Where they have a banger Luthen speech.
Yeah, because Andor says, do not bother with this, because all you're gonna he's thinking all you're gonna do is get a lot of innocent people killed.
Yeah,
because they have no idea what they're doing.
We'll get to it, because there's a whole good chat there. I want to save that for episode 6. Dude, bring me up the
that's in episode 6.
Yeah, do it again. I marked it all down on these 3. Mark them all. You give me my flavor shot. Right. Let me go first on this go here. So I want to tie it all up neatly. This one for me, I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to give this one an 8, because it does move everything effectively along. We see everything taking shape here in all the right ways, whether it's Cyril and Daedra, whether it's Daedra and the ISB, whether it's the other flunkies at the ISB in their limited time. I love that inclusion of the threat level midnight stuff for Luthen and Clea. They're going to have to uncover the bug situation and get it out of Skulden's collection, like on the clock with eyes on them. Like, it's not as simple as smashing a warehouse and taking the thing and leaving a copy. Like, there's going to be a pressure situation for that. So that's all good stuff there. And I did like the stuff that we got with the everything that happened, like with the Gorman front. It continues that World War II vibe. They're assessing the environment to figure out what they can do. So I vibed a little bit more with this one. I'm definitely, I can't give it a 9. Again, it lacks something like where I need menace. Because the show doesn't mind getting into some dark and gritty stuff, but it lacks menace in the way that season 1 had it, particularly with like the torture situation with Bix. Yeah. I mean, the rando officer trying to throw himself at her in the last block of episodes was gut sickening, but there's no menace from the Empire, not yet. So I can't go all the way and give it a 9, but I'll give it an 8. What do you think, brother?
Yeah. All right. Before I give my rating, I want to add on to something you said about them going in and to get that listening device. The other issue they have with putting a replica in there is that they've already found a replica, but it wasn't tied to Luthen.
Right.
This one would be directly tied to Luthen. And that way it would blow his cover because everyone knows him that he gets the real stuff.
Yep.
So he has to keep his authenticity of the pieces he's selling to these big wigs. So it's important that you have to get the bug out without tampering with the piece itself because of his reputation. And then if he loses reputation, he won't have that in. He wouldn't be invited to parties like this anymore. He wouldn't be invited to the
high
wedding.
level society.
Yeah.
He's
like
society.
Yeah, he's that guy you want in. So I think that played quite well with that. So for me, for my rating, going off of what we just said, I'm going to give it's right in the middle. Like I can't decide between Low and Slow and Pitmaster. I think this is where we'll throw it in the smoker with its sauce, and it fits right in there, that 7.5 area.
Okay, taking it down just a little bit lower, but it makes sense. I think historically you've been a bigger fan of episodes 1 and 3 in these kind of blocks, and usually you call this the glue episode. You do tend to go a little bit lower on these, so that tracks.
The only one I didn't do it with was the heist. That was 3 perfect episodes.
Yeah,
that was 3
that was awesome.
Perfect episodes.
Yeah, because that whole run of things was fantastic in season 1 for sure. Pacing, the action, everything that went down was great. All right, I think that wraps us up for episode 5. Stick around.